Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Michael and Dale at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. President Donald Trump held his first cabinet meeting yesterday. We have some of the highlights for you. A House hearing yesterday descended into literally chaos when Chairman James Comer threatened to have Representative Maxwell Frost, a Democrat from Florida, forcibly removed for calling President Trump a name. Want to know what this Democrat was calling the president? Stick around, I'll tell you. The Department of Health and Human Services has terminated a contract with a nonprofit that was paid millions of dollars every single month to operate a Texas overflow facility that has been sitting empty for a long time. This is the latest DOGE dump that we have for you. Also, finally, a South Carolina Congressman says he is preparing legislation to feature President Donald Trump on a new $250 bill. I have those details for you as well.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
President Trump held his first cabinet meeting yesterday, and boy, are we witnessing the long-awaiting return of something Washington hasn't seen in decades: accountability. And the man leading the charge isn't some career politician. He isn't some bureaucrat who's been milking the system for 30-plus years. Of course, it's Elon Musk. In case you missed it, Musk appeared at President Trump's first cabinet meeting this week. And what did he do? He told the truth, the unvarnished, unfiltered, brutally truth that Washington does not want to hear. He stood in front of the president, the cabinet, and the world and laid it all out. In his fashionable black suit with a black T-shirt and black cap, he talked about the U.S.'s drowning in debt situation. The deficit is unsustainable, he reminded them. The interest alone on our national debt now exceeds the Defense Department's total budget. Folks, let that sink in. We're spending over $1 trillion a year on interest for nothing. That's not paying for roads, not paying for schools, nor the military. That money's going straight into a black hole. Here's Elon Musk yesterday explaining things to the cabinet.
The overall goal here with the DOGE team is to help address the enormous deficit. We simply cannot sustain as a country $2 trillion deficits. The interest rates, just the interest on the national debt, now exceeds the Defense Department spending. We spend a lot on the Defense Department, but we're spending over $1 trillion on interest. If this continues, the country will become de facto bankrupt. It's not an optional thing; it is an essential thing. That's the reason I'm here, and taking a lot of flack and getting a lot of death threats. By the way, I like to stack them up, But if we don't do this, America will go bankrupt. That's why it has to be done. I'm confident at this point, knock on wood, knock on my wooden head, it's got a lot of wood up there, that we can actually find $1 trillion in savings. That would be roughly 15% of the $7 trillion budget. And obviously that can only be done with the support of everyone in this room. And I'd like to thank everyone for your support. Thank you very much. This can only be done with your support. So it's really, DOGE is a support function for the president and for the agencies and departments to help achieve those savings and to effectively find 15% in reduction in fraud and waste. And we bring the receipts. So people say, well, is this real? Just go to doge.gov. We line item by line item, we specify each item. So, and I should say, we will make mistakes. We won't be perfect, but when we make a mistake, we'll fix it very quickly.
It was kind of interesting to watch this and watch as you kind of could pan around the room at the cabinet members, and it's hard to really see what their response was. If they were actually listening to Musk, which I hope they were, or if they were just doing it because the president was sitting there in the room with them, expecting them to listen to everything he said. Musk isn't just complaining like the typical Washington crowd. He's actually trying to do something about it. That's why he's leading the Department of Government Efficiency, the agency that we have come to know belovingly as DOGE. And let me tell you, it's kind of shaking the swamp up, isn't it? Don't you just love this? Musk has already identified at least $1 trillion. $1 trillion. Wasteful government spending, $1 trillion. That's 50% of our massive $7 trillion budget. And, of course, the Washington establishment, they're losing their minds over it. The bureaucrats are furious because these people have been feasting on our money for generations, and finally someone is turning off the gravy train, literally. So what's Musk proposing? Simple. He's saying what any sane American would say. Cut the bloat, eliminate the waste, and stop throwing money into useless, outdated, and corrupt government programs. And boy, does Washington hate that idea, because they're all about useless, outdated, corrupt government programs. That's what they have survived on for decades now. Musk is out there saying, look, if we don't do this, America is going bankrupt. Full stop. Folks, he's right. We can't continue down this road. We've known this for years now. Nobody has been willing to step up and do it. Now, maybe, just maybe, we're at that point. The deep state knows this. The career politicians know it. The bureaucrats know it. And instead of fixing it, they've just been kicking the can down the road year after year after year, while we get stuck with the bill, while we continue to pay more and more of our hard-earned dollars in tax money. So let's talk about this. Let's think about this. Something else that has Washington elite shaking in their boots, Musk is considering this DOGE dividend, taking the money saved from eliminating waste and actually giving it back to the taxpayers. Instead of funding bureaucratic nonsense, they want to return your hard-earned tax dollars to you. What a radical concept, right? Many of you have mixed feelings about this, as do I. But at least it's something that we're talking about. Doesn't hurt to think about it, does it? Whether it's the right thing to do, we'll eventually figure that out. Of course, the swamp creatures hate this idea. They love wasting our money. They love creating useless jobs for their buddies. They love giving contracts to their spouses' nonprofits. They love making government so big, so bloated, that they control every aspect of our life. And now Elon Musk, this non-politician, this guy who's just been very successful at business, is saying, nope, not anymore, not on my watch. The president has tasked me with getting a handle on government spending. I don't have any allegiance to anyone, and that's what I'm going to do. It's going to take someone like Elon Musk to get this accomplished. An outsider, someone who does not have skin in the game necessarily. Now let's talk about something else Musk did in this meeting. He owned up to a mistake. Unlike the politicians who lie, cover up, blame others, Musk actually admitted that DOGE made an error, accidentally canceling USAID's Ebola prevention program. What did he do? He immediately restored it. No delay, no bureaucratic nonsense. He just fixed it. When's the last time you saw a government agency admit to a mistake and fix it in real time? That's how we know that this is different. And let's be honest, this is why Musk is getting those death threats that he mentioned. That's right. He admitted it. He's taking so much heat for this, so many threats, because the people who have been looting the American tax dollars for decades are terrified. They know if the American people get a taste of a leaner, smarter, more efficient government, they'll never be able to get it back. President Trump's fully behind Musk on this. He's made it clear. Trump knows that wasteful spending is one of the biggest threats to our country's future. And that's why he's backing DOGE. That's why he's standing behind what Elon Musk is doing. That's why he's pushing this mission forward, because he understands that we can't let the deep state drive this country into bankruptcy just so their friends can keep getting cushy six-figure government jobs where they do nothing all day. This is about saving America, saving our country. This is about actually doing something this time rather than just have politicians talking about doing it. It's about ensuring that future generations don't inherit a country buried under an impossible amount of debt. And the establishment, they're fighting back every way they can. They're trying to smear Musk, trying to drive a wedge between he and Donald Trump, trying to slow him down. They're trying to protect their bloated, broken system at all costs. But guess what? I don't think it's going to work. Do you? I don't think Elon Musk can be intimidated. I think the only way Elon Musk stops what he's doing is if Donald Trump calls him back. I don't think Donald Trump's going to. Musk doesn't appear to be backing down. I don't think Trump's going to back down either. And I can tell you, the American people aren't going to back down. Are you? Are you going to back down? Text me. Email me. Joey@joeyhudson.com. Your messages are welcome on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. There's a lot of talk about making America great again, and it begins with making America healthy again. Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team at PhD Weight Loss are at the forefront to educate and guide you to be your best self. The millions being spent in propping up Big Pharma are astounding, only to create long-term dependency and harmful side effects. Let's take a natural approach that isn't connected to a pharmaceutical company's bottom line. The coaches at PhD Weight Loss will show you how. The entire program is centered around science and nutrition, a proven roadmap that has helped over 8,000 clients lose over 331,000 pounds. You'll learn what to eat and when, how to quiet cravings, and finally get rid of that belly fat. Plus, you'll never take a medication. How many pounds would you like to lose in 2025? Do it the natural way with PhD Weight Loss, here to lead the charge to make America healthy again. Call PhD Weight Loss and schedule your consultation. 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. Hey, one more quick thing before I get off of DOGE. And look, we could spend all day long talking about DOGE every day because they're moving at such a quick pace here. In another, what I call DOGE dump yesterday, the Department of Health and Human Services has terminated a contract with a nonprofit. You ready for this? It's going to make you angry. They were paid millions every month to operate a Texas overflow facility that has been completely empty. This according to the latest report from DOGE. In a social media post, DOGE said that a former U.S. Customs and Immigration Enforcement employee and Biden transition team member joined Family Endeavors in early 2021. This is right after Joe Biden took office, where they helped the organization secure a sole source HHS contract for overflow housing from licensed care facilities. Now, sole source contract means there wasn't any bidding. They just gave it to them. Somebody who had these connections with this Biden administration insider and Customs and Immigration, they said, we'll provide this for X number of dollars, and Washington gave it to them rather than let other agencies bid on it. According to the Post, as a result, this nonprofit, Family Endeavors, their cash and portfolio of investments grew from $8.3 million in 2020. You follow? $8.3 million. Keep that. Hold that thought there. In 2020 to $520 million in 2023. I can't even do that math in my head. That's a lot of money. And it was all our money. Since March of 2024, last year, HHS has paid $18 million per month to keep a facility in Pecos, Texas, used for housing for unaccompanied migrant children that was previously at the center of reports of poor conditions. The payments continued despite the facility being empty, according to DOGE. The Post on X says, with national licensed facility occupancy now below 20%, HHS was able to terminate this contract, saving taxpayers over $215 million every year. Ed Martin, The U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., was tagged in the social media post. His response, I see it. We'll dig into this. Let's hope there's some charges filed. So where are all the adults in Washington? A House hearing yesterday descended into chaos when Chairman James Comer threatened to have a Democrat member of the committee forcibly removed for calling President Donald Trump a grifter. What started the chaos in this committee hearing? Well, during his speaking time, Representative Frost, Maxwell Frost, called Trump the grifter in chief and accused both he and Elon Musk of using their positions to, quote, enrich themselves to the tune of billions of dollars. Here's the exchange.
People like the grifter in chief Trump and President Musk are openly using their public offices to enrich themselves to the tune of billions of dollars. So if we want to look at waste, fraud, and abuse, which I'm down to do, why is there complete silence on the other side of the aisle about looking at the complete grifter that is the President of the United States and the richest man on the earth, which is looking into things like Social Security and different things like that? Why don't we investigate the real corruption?
Hold off. Point of order.
I reclaim my time.
Point of order.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Hold off. There was a point of order when you said something. Who asked for it? Mr. Higgins. Would you like to revise your remark with respect to improperly identifying the President of the United States?
I'll say President Musk and grifter-in-chief Trump.
All right.
Grifter-in-chief
Hey,
Trump.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Wait a second.
If I wanted to challenge someone to a fight, they would know it. Thank you.
Chairman, if Mr. Musk actually came here, then maybe the rules
All
of
right.
the committee
I heard
would
no
apply to
disparagement
him.
of the
But-
I'll say something else.
We'll save a lot of time.
I'll say something else.
Okay. All right. We're going to let Chair recognize Mr. Frost. You still have 3:49. You're going to maybe revise the disparaging comment about the president because that's supposed to be our decorum here. And
It is supposed to be. President Musk and the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who is engaged in grifting of the American people, often use their public offices to enrich themselves. Someone on the other side was just asking, how would you
Point of
feel
order,
if you
Mr.
called
Chairman.
someone else from the
hold
other
off, Mr. Frost. Hold off.
That's our United States U.S. House of Representatives for us. Like a bunch of kids. So after a brief period of multiple committee members, you heard part of it there, after they were talking over one another, Chairman Comer restored order and asked Mr. Frost to revise his prior remarks. As you heard, Comer also said Frost improperly identified President Trump. As you heard, Frost then doubled down by calling the two men President Musk and grifter-in-chief Trump. Again, this resulted in more cross-talking as other members of the committee, Comer included, took exception to Frost's characterization of Trump and to Mr. Musk. Frost somewhat relented then, calling Trump President of the United States, Donald Trump, who engaged in grifting of the American people. Basically the same thing. Frost was again interrupted by Comer, said that there was a pending motion for disparaging the president. The Florida Democrat, however, continued to accuse Trump of grifting, and it just went on. Comer ordered that the words be stricken from the transcript and barred Mr. Frost from speaking for the rest of the hearing. When Representative Jasmine Crockett, also a Democrat, she's from Texas, was called on to speak, she tried to come to Frost's defense before her voice was immediately snuffed out by other members shouting. Crockett said, "Insulting people's appearance as well as trying to fight them isn't a problem, but we're so sad that our little leader," that's when Comer then yelled, "Skip her, go to the next one," and her mic was cut off. I mean, again, this is like a high school student council meeting. Actually, that's probably not being fair to high school student councils. I was on student council in high school, and we never had meetings like this because we knew how to act like young adults that we were. Later in the hearing, Frost was again given the opportunity to talk. He called it despicable that the committee tried to silence him. So, yeah, now they're talking about, well, my freedom of speech. Look, I have a message for the Democrats on that committee and in the United States House of Representatives. Grow up. Grow up. It's just that simple. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. I received a text message asking the question, why hasn't poultry skyrocketed like eggs? Saying, thank God it hasn't. It's a good point, isn't it? I mean, everything, all prices are up, but unless I'm missing something, the price of chicken hasn't necessarily escalated like the price of eggs has. So why is that? It's a good question. So let's talk about eggs. The simple, everyday staple that one would think would be the most affordable food item in America, right? It's almost become a luxury item under the Biden-era disaster. But now, President Trump, his team, they're stepping in to fix yet another mess that the left has created. So where are we? The average price of a dozen eggs has hit an all-time high of $4.95. It's a lot higher in some areas. If you want something like organic, it's even higher. Now, you might be wondering, how did this happen? How did a basic food like eggs, something, again, that should be dirt cheap, suddenly has become an expensive commodity? Well, let's break this down. Let's talk about how that happened, like maybe over-regulation, government incompetence, a total failure of leadership from the previous administration. It's just that simple. Enter Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins, whom I had the opportunity to interview last week. Finally, someone with a spine, someone who understands that the American people don't need more bureaucratic red tape. We need solutions. And what's she doing? She's laying out a 5-pronged plan to bring egg prices back down where they should be. So let's go through that. First, deregulation. And this is a staple of the Trump administration. This is what he did so brilliantly in his first 4 years in the White House. Deregulation. Donald Trump understands that if you have a lot of red tape out there, it does not allow the market to do what it does best, does not allow business to do what they do best. So deregulation, this is huge. You want to know why eggs are so expensive? Because the government, especially under Joe Biden, kept slapping more and more regulations on farmers and poultry producers, making it harder and more expensive to bring eggs to the market, to make them show up on our shelves at Ingles. Ms. Rollins hit the nail on the head when she said, at the end of the day, policy matters, and she's right. And the Trump administration is cutting the bureaucratic nonsense that's been driving prices through the roof. Second, investments in biosecurity. This means we're protecting our poultry industry from disease outbreaks that have been driving up the prices as well. You think Joe Biden cared about this? Of course not. He was too busy virtue signaling about climate change while American families could not even afford an omelet. Third, repopulating fowl. We're actually making sure that America has enough chickens to produce the eggs that we eat. Radical concept, right? Joe Biden's administration never thought of this. Fourth, importing eggs in the short term to stabilize prices. Now, this is not something any of us want to hear. I know what you're thinking. Why do we need to import eggs? Well, because the damage has already been done. While we rebuild our egg supply, this move hopefully can bring down costs immediately so that we can afford eggs again, so that we can have our breakfast again, so that I can go and have my bacon and cheese omelet and it not have to take out a second mortgage on my home. That's how I feel sometimes. And let's be clear. This isn't a long-term fix. I get that, importing eggs. But it's a short-term strategy to help us undo the mess that we've been left with. And finally, she's proposing that we invest in vaccines and therapeutic research for the poultry farmers. This means making sure that our flocks are healthy, that they're productive, and able to meet the demand without any disruption. Now, compare this plan to what we had under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I'm waiting. Oh, wait, well, there was no plan. We had rising prices, shortages, government officials shrugging their shoulders while families suffered. The best they could do was impose rationing. Some grocery stores were literally limiting how many eggs people could buy. Restaurants like Denny's and Waffle House were even adding egg surcharges because prices were so out of control. I saw this just yesterday. A little place that I stop at quite often on Highway 11 near my beloved Lake Kiowee had a sign saying, "We reserve the right to do a 50-cent surcharge on any egg orders." Wow. Look, they told you that it was your fault for wanting eggs in the first place. Donald Trump is saying, hey, if you want to have an omelet every morning, I'm going to make sure you can afford to do that. We're seeing something different. We're seeing leadership. We're seeing a real government that works for us, who's trying to solve the problems that we have, to dig in deep, to look under the hood. The Trump administration isn't just going to fix the egg crisis. They're showing Americans how government should work to help us rather than hinder us. And getting out of the way and letting businesses, letting consumers thrive, letting farmers do what they do best, and that's raise chickens and sell eggs. So, to all the bureaucrats who buried the poultry industry in red tape, to all the so-called experts who told us high egg prices were the new normal, and to all the socialists who think government control is the solution, I got one word for you. You're wrong. Actually, that's two, wasn't it? You're wrong. Because President Trump and his team, people like Brooke Rollins, they're going to prove once again that conservative free market policies do actually work. Eggflation is going to come to an end. And that's just the beginning. The deep state's panicking. The bureaucrats are losing their grip. America's waking up to the fact that real leadership makes a difference and that we can have a better life. By the way, and moving on from our discussion of eggs, something huge happened yesterday. The mainstream media is absolutely losing their minds over it, too. President Trump and his team have dismantled one of the biggest gatekeeping operations in D.C., the White House Correspondents Association. The so-called watchdogs of democracy have just had their monopoly on access to the president ripped away, and boy, are they upset. For decades, this unelected group of self-important journalists has decided who gets to sit in the press pool, who gets access to the president, and more importantly, who doesn't. They've controlled the game, picking their buddies from CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post to dominate the airwaves while silencing conservative and independent voices. I think the monopoly is over. So here's what you need to know. Trump's press secretary, the brilliant and fearless Caroline Leavitt, don't you just love her with how she is? She takes over that podium without the big, bulky 3-ring binder that KJP depended on and still couldn't even read from it. Ms. Leavitt announced that the White House, not some self-serving press club, will now determine who gets to be in the press pool. Now, this is big, and this is long overdue. Leavitt said legacy outlets who have participated in the press pool for decades will still be allowed to join, fear not. But we also will be offering the privileges to well-deserving outlets who have never been allowed to share in this awesome responsibility. In other words, no more old boy network deciding that only liberal media hacks get front row access. Now we're going to start seeing some independent voices, conservative journalists, actual reporters, not activists disguised as journalists. They're going to have a seat at the table. And that's a win for us. That's a big win for us. Naturally, the White House Correspondents Association is having a meltdown. Their president, Eugene Daniels, came out swinging, claiming that this move tears at the independence of a free press. Really? These people had no problem when Joe Biden stripped 440 journalists of their press passes in 2023. They've forgotten about that. Biden's White House quietly revoked credentials from nearly a third of the press corps, and the media elites shrugged it off like it was nothing. You didn't have any of this gnashing of teeth from CNN and the New York Times. But now that Trump is simply leveling the playing field, suddenly it's a threat to democracy. The hypocrisy here is so thick, you can cut it with a knife. So let's talk about what Biden did back in 2023. He imposed an arbitrary set of rules that required journalists to prove they had visited the White House at least once in the last 6 months. Why? Because he wanted to purge independent reporters, particularly conservative ones. He didn't want conservative reporters to even have a chance. And what did the media say about it? Nothing. Crickets. They looked the other way because they liked having control. They liked shutting out voices they disagreed with. They liked making sure the only questions Biden ever had to answer were pre-screened softballs from the leftist press. Same thing for Karine Jean-Pierre. They wanted to control, they wanted to protect her because they knew that she was in over her head. Now, the script is flipped. Trump is restoring the press passes of those 440 journalists Biden silenced. He's expanding access, not limiting it. He loves the media. He loves to talk. He loves to have those impromptu chats with reporters. And yet the media elites are acting like this is some authoritarian crackdown. I mean, it's laughable what they're doing. Here's what you need to know. This isn't about press freedom. It's about control. The leftist media wants to control the narrative as best they can. They want to keep conservative, independent journalists out of the room. That's not going to happen anymore. You and I are going to be able to have a front row seat to what's happening in that White House press room. And Donald Trump is guaranteeing it. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, you know, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. So big news from the U.S. Supreme Court yesterday. I have that for you in just a minute. First, have you heard the story about South Carolina Congressman Joe Wilson? He says that he is preparing legislation that will feature President Trump on a new $250 bill. What do you think about that? What do you think about Trump's mug being on a $250 bill? What do you think about a $250 bill to begin with? Wilson wrote in a Tuesday post on X with a mock-up of the proposed bill. Grateful to announce that I'm drafting legislation to direct the Bureau of Engraving and Printing to design a $250 bill featuring Donald J. Trump. Current laws prevent a living person from appearing on U.S. currency. Despite the contradiction with federal laws, Wilson said that he wants to honor the president for his financial policies, drawing a contrast to the previous administration. He said, Bidenflation has destroyed the economy, forcing American families to carry more cash. Most valuable bill for most valuable president. The U.S. House, of course, has already shown a wave of support for the president, including a proposal to allow Trump to seek a third term in office, which is forbidden by the Constitution, and a bill seeking to add his likeness to the Mount Rushmore monument. I don't think any of those things are going to happen, but still, it's just a little pat on the back to Donald Trump and saying, Mr. President, we appreciate what you do. On the text line and emails, let's see, this is an email. It says, I'm just your average South Carolina citizen looking closely at what our South Carolina state legislators are trying to do. Please see the email I sent to all state legislators concerning a yet another proposed handheld cell phone driving ban. Special interests have now crafted a ban, H 3276, that includes a possible 5 years in prison, $5,000 fine, and a license suspension. As I explained to our state legislators below, handheld cell phone driving bans do not make our roads safer. Rather, these bans just hurt everybody, everyday folks, small business owners, families, farmers, etc., via fines, license points, higher insurance rates, and restricted cell phone use. Please see the attached PDF presentation, which he included with his email, showing how real-world data proves handheld driving bans have not worked across the U.S. and will not work in South Carolina. All right. Thank you. Appreciate your email. Your emails are welcome. Joey at joeyhudson.com. Ray writes on the text line, Joey, words to live by. Never argue with a fool. People will have a hard time deciding who's who. To try to make sense of what the left has to say is impossible. Americans have awakened to common sense and will support our president. I love winning. Thank you, Joey. Thank you, Ray. Appreciate your text. Jennifer on the text line says, "Hey Joey, it's Jennifer. I think I'm for getting a $5,000 kickback check from DOGE. I think something just haunts me that yes, this would feel good, but will it have unintended consequences somehow?" Well, you know, Jennifer, some argue that dumping those $5,000 checks in the economy will cause inflation, like we saw with Joe Biden dumping checks in the economy during COVID. So that could be the unintended consequence. Jennifer says, that keeps coming to my mind. There surely would be nothing wrong with applying all of that DOGE money to the national debt, right? I think that's probably a better idea. She says, P.S. Andy says to send us some money. Americans need inflation relief. I get that. Appreciate your text as always, Jennifer. Phil in Philly. Email says, nobody's talking about the millions Joe Biden put out of work on day one. You know, this is a good reminder, Phil. Thank you. Oil, gas, coal all shut down. Day one, putting millions of Americans out of work. What about them? Fed workers, gravy train is over. That's a good point, Phil. There wasn't this gnashing of teeth by the Democrats when Joe Biden cut out the pipelines on day one with his list of executive orders. Good point. The Supreme Court yesterday temporarily blocked a judge's order giving the Trump administration basically at 11:59 p.m. last night deadline to release billions of dollars in U.S. foreign aid. You know, this is part of the USAID and a lot of the contracts that have been canceled. Some of those recipients are whining. We literally have Americans who have sued our own government trying to force the billions to be paid. How sick is that? So Chief Justice John Roberts said the order issued by U.S. District Judge Amr Ali will remain on hold until the High Court has a chance to weigh in more fully. Ali had ordered the federal government to comply with his decision, temporarily blocking a freeze on foreign aid, ruling in a lawsuit filed by nonprofit groups and businesses. An appellate panel refused the administration's request to intervene, so they took it straight to the U.S. Supreme Court. The second time in just a month or so that President Donald Trump has had to do so. The federal government froze foreign assistance after the executive order signed by Trump, targeting what he called wasteful programs that do not correspond to his foreign policy goals. Somehow these foreign entities, they feel like that they're entitled to our money. So they've hired U.S. attorneys and other nonprofits to sue our government to try to force the payment. The Trump administration yesterday said it's eliminating more than 90% of the U.S. Agency for International Development's foreign aid contracts and $60 billion in overall U.S. assistance around the world, putting numbers on its plans to eliminate the majority of U.S. development and humanitarian help abroad. This is what we want. This is what the American people voted for. We're tired of our money being sent all over the world and not used within our own country, helping our veterans, helping the poor, helping people who need the help. Yesterday's disclosures also give an idea of the scale of the administration's retreat from U.S. aid and development assistance overseas from the decades of U.S. policy that foreign aid that we should be helping our U.S. interest, that it stabilizes other countries and economies, and that it builds alliances. And it probably does all of that. But at what point do we pause and say we have to take care of ourselves first? The memo said officials were clearing significant waste stemming from decades of institutional drift. More changes are planned in how USAID and the State Department delivers foreign assistance, it said. President Trump and Elon Musk have hit foreign aid harder and faster than almost any other target in their push to cut the size of federal government because, again, that's low-hanging fruit. Those are projects that the American people are just sick about hearing. The billions of dollars that are going to these wasteful programs in foreign countries, some of which we've never even heard of, the countries that is. Trump, on January 20th, ordered what he said would be a 90-day program-by-program review of which foreign assistance programs deserves to continue and cut off all foreign assistance funds almost overnight. This funding freeze has stopped thousands of U.S.-funded programs abroad, and the administration's Musk Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, have pulled the majority of USAID staff off the job through forced leave and firings. Again, it's what we asked for. It's what we voted for. So in the federal court filings yesterday, nonprofits owed money on contracts with USAID described both Trump political appointees and members of Musk teams terminating those contracts around the world at breakneck speed without time for any meaningful review, they say. A USAID official wrote on Monday, there are many more terminations coming, so please gear up. The nonprofits, among thousands of contractors who think they're entitled to these billions of dollars in payments since the freeze began, they call the en masse contract terminations a maneuver to get around complying with the order to lift the funding freeze temporarily. Democrat lawmakers are agreeing with them. Democrat lawmakers like Senator Chris Murphy, a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, said the administration is brazenly attempting to blow through Congress and the courts by announcing the completion of their sham review. He's calling it a sham review. Folks, when the deep state is this upset, you know somebody's doing something right. That's it for today's show. Tara's up next, followed by Mike Gallagher. We'll be back again tomorrow, 5 a.m. for that first cup of coffee and more of Sunrise Carolina. Until then, remember, folks, God's got this. He's still in control. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.